the future. Where will we be in 10 years? In 20? One thing's for certain, computers will be a part of all of our lives. It's all about an easy way to start or advance your computer skills. Open doors for your financial future on Tools for the Future.
If you use Microsoft Word for Windows, you already realize what a powerful tool it is for working with documents. One benefit of Word for Windows and other word processors is the ability to revise previously prepared documents without having to retype the documents in their entirety. In this video, we will show you several techniques for increasing your editing efficiency. Before we do any editing, let's make sure the Word for Windows screen is set up to display paragraph marks and other non-printing characters. Although you may not want these non-printing characters on your normal screen, they will be included on the screens shown in this video for purposes of clarity. Editing can conceptually be divided into two phases. The first phase consists of moving the insertion point to the place in the document where the editing is to take place. In a word processor, this movement is performed using commands designed specifically for this purpose, such as the arrow keys, home key, end key, and so forth. The second phase of editing is to actually perform the editing, that is, to add, delete, or modify text. Word for Windows also has a variety of keys and procedures for performing these actions. Let's begin editing. First, we must open or retrieve the paragraph to be edited for the computer's disk. From our copy, we see that the first change indicated consists of bolding and centering the paragraph's heading. The next revision consists of adding a new word at the beginning of the first paragraph. Since Word for Windows normally places the insertion point at the beginning of a newly opened document, the first phase of editing, moving the insertion point, can be accomplished by tapping the down arrow key. This action moves the insertion point to the beginning of the first line of the first paragraph. Before making our first change, we need to check the status bar at the bottom of the screen to make sure that OVR is turned off. The Insert key is used to toggle this feature on and off. If the Insert key does not make the OVR turn on and off, check an option called Use the Insert key for Paste, which is found in the Tools menu. Use Tools, then Options, then Edit in version 6. Make sure the checkbox next to the Use the Insert key for Paste is cleared. Choose Tools, then Options, then General in version 2. Make sure the checkbox next to the Use the Insert key for Paste is cleared. When OVR is off on the status bar, Word for Windows does not replace existing text with new text. In our paragraph, the word "the" needs to be typed in, but the existing text is not to be replaced. Be sure to tap the spacebar after typing the word "the." Since the word "first" no longer begins the paragraph, the capital F needs to be replaced with a lowercase f. To do this, enter a lowercase f and then tap the Delete key to delete the capital F. The Delete key deletes one character to the right of the insertion point. This completes our first change, and we are now ready to move the insertion point to the location of the next change. The next change consists of inserting the phrase beginning with the word "step" after the word "first." You could tap repeatedly on the right arrow key until you get the desired place. However, it is both faster and more accurate to accomplish this movement of the insertion point in a single motion using the Control right arrow key. Now that the insertion point has been correctly positioned, we are ready to type in the new text. This completes our second change. Our next revision consists of removing the words "is identified." The quickest way to get to the end of the line is to tap the End key. This jumps the insertion point to the end of the current line using only a single keystroke. Having positioned the insertion point, we are now ready to delete two words. Obviously, it would be easy to erase a word as short as "is" simply by tapping the backspace key a couple of times, since the backspace key deletes characters one by one to the left of the insertion point. But a very useful editing technique to get in the habit of using is Control backspace. Control backspace deletes all of the text to the left of the insertion point up to the first space or punctuation that is encountered. If the insertion point is at the end of the word, then the entire word to the left of the insertion point is deleted. Control Delete can be used to delete all the text from the insertion point to the right, up to the first space or punctuation encountered. If an entire word is to the right of the insertion point, Then Control-Delete can be used to delete an entire word. Our next change is to insert the word simply in the next sentence. Two approaches will be illustrated here, one using the keyboard and the other the mouse. First, the keyboard. Move down one line by tapping the down arrow key, then tap the home key to jump the insertion point to the left side of the line. Finally, use the Control right arrow key combination to hop the cursor to the beginning of the word any. With the mouse, move the I-beam to the beginning of the word any. With the I-beam in position, click the left mouse button to move the insertion point to the current location of the I-beam. With the insertion point positioned at the beginning of the word any, key in the word simply. Having completed this change, use Control right arrow key to hop over to the beginning of the word text, which needs to be erased. To erase it, use Control-Delete. Control-Delete both deletes the entire word and leaves the insertion point correctly positioned for making the next change in a single step. Now type in the phrase group of letters. Referring back to our copy, we see that the next change called for consists of deleting the word and replacing it with the word or. Since this target is now nearly right below the insertion point, all that is necessary is to tap the down arrow key to move down one line, then Control right arrow key to hop to the word and. Use Control-Delete to swiftly delete the entire word and then type in its replacement or. Our next goal is to insert some more new text at a location that is almost at the end of the line. First, use the End key to zip the insertion point to the end of the line. Then use Control left arrow to hop back to the left word. With just 2 steps, the insertion point has been positioned right where it needs to be to add the phrase such as those. Referring back to our copy, we see that our next change is to delete the words might be and replace them with the word are. Use Control right arrow to hop over to the word might and then delete might and be by holding down the Control key and tapping the delete key twice. Complete the change by typing in the word are. Again, we see that our last revision consists of deleting several words at the end of the sentence and replacing them with new text. First, we hop over to the end of the word accidentally, which is where the insertion point stops because of the comma at the end of the word. With the insertion point in the correct position to make the last change, and with OVR activated, all that is necessary is to key in the new ending to the paragraph. When editing in Word for Windows, be sure to keep an eye on whether or not OVR is active by watching the status bar at the bottom of the screen. Now let's return to the task of centering and bolding the heading at the top of the paragraph. The changes we now want to make are different from the ones made thus far. They are called formatting changes. A formatting change is one that affects the appearance of text but does not involve altering the text itself. In Word for Windows, making a formatting change is similar to editing, except that an additional step is involved. As with editing, the insertion point must first be moved to the place where the formatting is to take place. Then the next step is to select that text, which is to have its format altered. Selected text is also sometimes referred to as highlighted or blocked text. The third step is to actually make the formatting change. In this video, we will illustrate a number of basic font and paragraph formatting options. Our first formatting change is to center the heading at the top of the first paragraph. To change the format of a paragraph, the first step is to make sure the insertion point is located somewhere in the paragraph. Because the heading is at the top of our one-paragraph document, a quick way to jump the insertion point to the top of the screen is to hold down the Control key and then tap Page Up. This command jumps the insertion point to the top of the current screen. Once the insertion point is in the paragraph, the alignment of the paragraph can be easily altered. From the keyboard, this is done by holding down the Control key and then tapping the E key. This particular task can also be done quickly using the mouse. To center a paragraph using the mouse, first move the I-beam to the paragraph to be centered and click the left mouse button. Then, move the pointer to the Center Text button on the button bar at the top of the screen and click on it with the left mouse button. Our second formatting change consists of making all of the letters in the heading bold. In Word for Windows, changing the appearance of individual letters is called font formatting in version 6 and character formatting in version 2. To change the format of letters, we first need to select them. In this case, we need to select all the letters in the heading because we wish to make all the letters in the heading bold. There is a quick way to select an entire sentence using the mouse. With the insertion point anywhere in the heading, hold down the Control key and click the left mouse button. Immediately, the entire sentence is selected. From Word for Windows perspective, the heading is a one-sentence paragraph, so you could have used either procedure for selecting a sentence or a paragraph. Once all the letters in the heading have been selected, they can be bolded. With the mouse, move the pointer up to the B button on the button bar at the top of the screen, and with the pointer on the B button, click the left mouse button. On the keyboard, press Ctrl B. This completes the revisions to the paragraph. After the revisions have been completed, it is a good idea to check the spelling of the document. The appearance of the spell check button is the same in both versions, but differently positioned on the button bar. Let's review the editing keys introduced so far. We have illustrated 8 keys for controlling the movement of the insertion point. These are the down, left, and right arrow keys, and the Control key combined with the left and right arrow keys. Notice how the Control key expands the motion of the left and right arrow keys by permitting the insertion point to hop to the left or right over an entire word. Also introduced were the Home and End keys, which shoot the insertion point to the left or right of the current line respectively, and the Control Page Up key combination to jump the insertion point to the top of the current screen. We have also illustrated 4 methods of deleting text. The backspace key deletes individual characters to the left of the insertion point, while the delete key deletes individual characters to the right of the insertion point. Control backspace deletes all or part of an entire word to the left of the insertion point, while the Control delete key deletes all or part of the entire word to the right of the insertion point. When the OVR is off, any text typed at the insertion point simply pushes existing text in front of it. But when OVR is activated, which is done by tapping the Insert key, new text typed at the insertion point will type over and erase any existing text. Pressing the Insert key again deactivates OVR. We have also introduced the concept of selecting text as a way of singling out just a limited portion of text for special attention. To select a sentence, we place the insertion point anywhere in the sentence, held down the Control key, and click the left mouse button. In this case, the reason for selecting the text in the heading was to change its format. A format change is one that only involves changing the appearance of text, not its content, and changing the format of text is called font or character formatting. The format we wanted in our heading consisted of making the heading appear darker and with thicker letters. This type of formatting is referred to as bolding. We illustrated the use of the keyboard Control B key and the use of the mouse clicking the B button to bold selected text. Even though it will take considerable practice to learn to use these techniques, the effort will be handsomely rewarded by increased productivity. Here is what our document looks like after all the revisions have been made. Let's move on to a longer document with more complex revisions. Additional editing techniques that will be introduced in this example include ways to delete or remove larger segments of text, such as entire sentences or parts of sentences, and use of the mouse to drag and drop text. We will also illustrate how to remove the formatting from letters by changing text from italicized back to regular text. Finally, we will illustrate how to quickly alter the format of several paragraphs rather than working with one paragraph at a time. Referring to our copy, we see that the first revision we wish to perform is to change font formatting. We wish to make the letters in the heading both bold and uppercase. To begin making these changes, we must first open the document. To bold the selected text, either the mouse or keyboard may be used. If using the mouse, move the pointer to the B button on the button bar and click on it. If using the keyboard, press Ctrl B. Notice that even after the selected text has been bolded, it remains selected, so there's no need to select it again. This selected text can be changed to yet another format. In this case, we want to change the characters to uppercase. With the keyboard, this is done by pressing Shift, Ctrl A. In version 2, use just Ctrl A to change the selected text to uppercase letters. There are small differences in the formatting screens between version 6 and version 2, so let's repeat this double formatting using version 2. We return to the point where the heading has been selected but not yet formatted. Use the mouse to choose the Format option in the menu bar. In the pull-down Format menu, choose the Character option and use the mouse to click and insert X's in the checkboxes to the left of both the bold and the all caps options. To effect these changes, move the pointer to the OK button and click on it. The selected text is changed to include both formats. The next revision we wish to make consists of deleting 3 words on the first line. We will show you 2 different ways to make this type of deletion quickly and efficiently. First, let's use the keyboard. Normally, you would press the down arrow key to move the insertion point down to the first line, but when you do this, you end up near the end of the first line. However, if you tap the left arrow key, the insertion point reappears at the beginning of the selected text, in this case at the beginning of the heading. Now press the down arrow key, and the insertion point ends up in the word most, which is much nearer to our target, which is the word and. Now use the Control right arrow key twice to hop over to the target. Hold down the Control key and tap the Delete key 3 times to delete the 3 consecutive words. An alternative way to delete these 3 words involves using the mouse. Using the mouse, move the insertion point anywhere into the first word, which in this case is the word and. Then, using the left mouse button, double-click on this word. In Word for Windows, double-clicking on a word causes the entire word to be selected. To select the next 2 words, it is not necessary to double-click again. Instead, we use the Shift key. As we have already seen, one of the functions of the Shift key in Word for Windows is to extend an action. So hold down the Shift key, then use the mouse to move the I-beam anywhere into the last of the 3 words to be deleted, in this case the word used. Now click the left button once. The highlighting immediately extends across all 3 words. Although you could use the Cut button on the button bar to discard these selected words, it is generally preferable to use either the backspace or the delete key to permanently discard selected text. The reasons for this will become clear later when we use Word for Windows cut and paste features. Our next change is another formatting change. In this case, we wish to remove the formatting of a word. Specifically, we wish to unitalicize the word revise. Fortunately, the techniques for removing font or character formatting are nearly the same as those used for adding a new format to text. Use the mouse to position the I-beam anywhere on the word to be selected. Next, double-click on the word to select it. Finally, use the mouse to move the pointer up to the I button on the button bar and click on it with the left mouse button. The italicized format is removed and the selected word is returned to normal format. With the keyboard, once the word has been selected, press Ctrl I to remove the italicized formatting from the selected text. The next change is yet another formatting change. Here we wish to italicize several words in succession. Because the first step is to select the words to be italicized, the process for doing this with the mouse is very similar to the process we use to delete the 3 consecutive words at the beginning of the paragraph. First, we use the mouse to position the insertion point anywhere in the first word of the series, and we then double-click on the left mouse button to select that word. We then use the mouse to move the I-beam anywhere into the last word in the series. Hold down the Shift key and click the left mouse button again. The highlighting immediately extends from the first word through the last word. Release the Shift key. and use the mouse to move the pointer up to the I button on the button bar and click on it. In order to show you another efficient feature of Word for Windows, a different way of italicizing the text using the keyboard will be illustrated. With the keyboard, the insertion point can be quickly moved to the beginning of the text to be selected by tapping the down arrow key and then tapping the home key to zip the insertion point to the beginning of the line. Next, tap the F8 key once. This key places Word for Windows into an extend mode, which is visually confirmed by the darkened display of EXT here. Putting Word for Windows into its extend mode has the effect of anchoring the insertion point. While use of the arrow keys is one convenient way to move the insertion point to select text, other techniques for extending this selection are available. One such technique uses any of the characters on the keyboard. Any character pressed causes the selection of text to extend from the initial position of the insertion point up to and including the first occurrence of the character to the right of the insertion point. In our example, we wish to extend the selection to the end of the sentence, which, of course, ends with a period. Thus, by tapping the period key, the selected text is extended to include all of the text between the point where the F8 key was pressed, in this case at the beginning of the line, up to and including the first period to the right, which in this case is the period at the end of the sentence. Once the text has been selected, it can be italicized by using the mouse and clicking on the I button in the button bar as previously described, or by pressing Ctrl-I on the keyboard. The extend mode works in the same way in version 2, but the appearance of the status bar at the bottom of the screen is a little different. EXT is present only when the extend mode is on, and not visible when it is off. Our next change is another font or character formatting change. The secondary heading after the first paragraph needs to have the underlining removed and the letters changed to a small caps format. As always, our first task is to move the insertion point to the place where the revision is to take place. Because we are now working with a longer document, the heading is not visible on the screen. From our copy, we see that it is just a few lines down in our document. This heading is considered a paragraph, because in Word for Windows, what constitutes a paragraph has nothing to do with grammar. Any text that ends with a paragraph marker is a paragraph. To quickly jump the insertion point to the beginning of the next paragraph down, hold down the Control key and tap the down arrow key. This places the insertion point at the beginning of the heading. Having moved the insertion point to the heading paragraph, we want to select all of the characters in the heading so we can change their format. With the mouse, this is done with the Control click to select the entire heading. With the keyboard, hold down the Shift key and tap the End key, and all of the text from the insertion point's location to the end of the line is selected. Whichever method you chose to select the letters to be reformatted, it is easy to use the keyboard to quickly change the format of the text. Use Ctrl-U to ununderline the selected text. In version 6, use Shift-Ctrl-K to make selected text into small caps format. In version 2, Ctrl-U is used to remove the underlining, but just Ctrl-K is used to change the format of the selected text to small caps. If you have trouble remembering the Ctrl-Shift combinations, you can use the Help feature. To do this in version 6, use the mouse to double-click on the Help button or on the word Help in the menu bar, then click on Search for Help on. In either case, the search dialog box appears, and you should key in the letters Key. One of the lines below will read Keyboard Shortcuts, so use the mouse to point to it and click on it. Then click on Show Topics. Click in the scroll bar to the right of the Select a Topic box until you see Using Keyboard Shortcuts in Word, and click on it. Click on Go To. You now have a list of different areas where shortcut keys are available in Word for Windows. Point to the type of shortcuts you are interested in seeing. For example, we have just been working with character formats, so to see a list of the shortcut keys for formatting characters, click on Using Shortcut Keys to format characters. To exit from the list of shortcut keys, click the Close button. To exit from Help, double-click the Close box in the upper left-hand corner of the Help box, or just click anywhere in your document if it is visible behind the Help box. To get help in version 2, Use the mouse to click on the word Help in the menu bar, then click on Help Index, followed by keyboard and mouse. And finally click on Character Formatting Key Combinations. Although it is easy to change the underlining of a selected text with the mouse using the underline button, there is no button for the small caps format. So if you are going to use the mouse, you should use it to make both formatting changes. To do this, click the Format option on the menu bar, then click the Font option, and the Font Formatting dialog box is opened. In this dialog box, point to the down arrow at the left side of the underline box and click on it. Then choose the None option. Move down to check the box to the left of the phrase Small Caps in the Effects box and click on it. When you do this, Word for Windows places an X in the checkbox. Click on the OK button to actually change the selected text to the new formats. The procedure for removing underlining and adding a small caps format is essentially the same in version 2. Click the mouse pointer on the Format option of the menu bar, then click the Character option to open the Character Formatting dialog box. In this dialog box, point to and click the checkbox to the left of the phrase Small Caps. Word for Windows places an X in this checkbox. Clicking on this checkbox clears the X. Click on the OK button to actually change the selected text to the small caps format and to remove its underlining. Now we come to an editing change that includes deleting several lines of text. To position the insertion point at the beginning of the third sentence, we can use either the keyboard or the mouse. If we use the keyboard, tap the down arrow key to move the insertion point onto the line that is to be replaced. Then tap the Home key to snap the insertion point to the beginning of this line. With the mouse, move the pointer onto this down arrow. Then with each click of the left mouse button, the text is scrolled up one line. Once the target is visible, we use the mouse to move the I-beam to the beginning of the line and then click the left button to place the insertion point at that location. We have already seen that when new text is going to replace existing text, it is not necessary to remove the old text first. Tap the Insert key to place Word for Windows into its overtype mode. With OVR darkened or appearing on the status bar, and the insertion point positioned at the beginning of the line, simply type in the new text. New text replaces the existing text. However, you will need to pay attention as you type in this new text because the text being added is longer than the existing text. So when you come to the word insertion, stop typing and again tap the Insert key to turn off the overstrike mode. We still need to insert the word the, but it just causes extra work if we overtype a word that we want to keep. Type in the word the. With OVR off, this text no longer replaces existing text, but instead again pushes it ahead. Our next change is to add the word the preceded by a dash and to delete the two words movement commands. We will use the Control right arrow key to hop from the word to the right. In this case, we want to hop over the words insertion point. Next, use Control Delete to delete the words movement commands by holding down the Control key and tapping the Delete key 3 times. The third tap is needed to delete the period and 2 trailing spaces. In version 6, the space that trails the word point is automatically deleted if a feature called Smart Cut and Paste is used. Continue by keying in the dashes, then the word the, a space, and a lowercase l. Tap the Delete key once to delete the uppercase L. Version 2 does not include any Smart Cut and Paste features, so you will need to tap the backspace key once to delete the space trailing the word point. Then key in the dashes. Next, key in the word the and a lowercase l. Tap the Delete key once to delete the uppercase L. Our next target is to insert the word "and" between up arrow and down arrow. With the mouse, move the I-beam to the beginning of the word "down" and click to reposition the insertion point. With the keyboard, you have to tap the End key to zip the insertion point to the right side of the line. Then use the Control left arrow key combination to hop back to the left word by word until the insertion point is positioned to the left of the first letter of the word "down." Whether using the mouse or keyboard to reposition the insertion point, next type in the word "and" followed by a trailing space. Use the Control right arrow key combination to hop the insertion point to the right of the word "arrow." Type in a space and the word "keys" and a period to end the sentence. Tap the Delete key once to delete the comma that has been pushed forward. Tap the space bar twice to add the 2 spaces needed to separate the 2 sentences. Now continue by typing in the remaining new text. After the new text has been entered, hold down the Control key and tap the right arrow key 3 times to hop the insertion point to the end of the word "up." Tap the Delete key to remove the comma. Hold down the Control key and tap the right arrow key until the insertion point has been hopped over to the beginning of the word "are." Use the backspace key to delete the space back to the left that trails the word "down." Enter the period, then tap the space bar twice to insert the 2 spaces that need to follow a period. Our next task is to delete about 3 lines of text, beginning with the partial sentence starting with the word "are" and including the entire sentence that follows it. Actually, since Word for Windows considers a sentence to be anything beginning and ending with periods and a space, both the sentence fragment and the full sentence are sentences for editing purposes. Use the mouse and move the I-beam anywhere onto the newly created sentence. Make a Control click. Recall how a selection was extended from one word to several words with the help of the Shift key. This same tactic can be applied to the sentences. Release the Control key and then use the mouse to scroll the text up by clicking in the scroll bar anywhere underneath the scroll box. Move the I-beam anywhere into the next sentence, hold down the Shift key, and click the left mouse button. Immediately, the next entire sentence is selected. Complete the removal of the selected text by pressing either the backspace or delete keys. In version 6, you will need to tap the space bar to add an extra space to follow the period that ends the preceding sentence, if the Smart Cut and Paste option is on. This option is found under Tools, Options, Edit. Now let's demonstrate an alternate approach that relies on the keyboard rather than the mouse. Again, we will use Word for Windows Undo feature to reinstate the 2 deleted sentences. In version 2, the Undo button is different. It looks like this. We begin with the insertion point at the beginning of the sentence fragment, which is where we left it after inserting the period and 2 spaces to end the newly created sentence. We will use Word for Windows Extend feature that is activated by pressing the F8 key. Placing Word for Windows in the Extend mode has the effect of anchoring the insertion point. As previously shown, one way to extend a selection is to press the key of a specific character. Since a sentence ends with a period, it makes a useful extend target. After placing Word for Windows in its Extend mode, tap the period key to select all the text between the location of the insertion point up to and including the first period. This process may be repeated because Word for Windows remains in the Extend mode until it is either turned off, which can be done by pressing the Escape key, or by taking some action with the selected text, such as deleting it. So press the period again, and the selected text is extended to include the next sentence. Once all the text has been selected, it can be deleted by tapping either the backspace or delete keys. The revisions to the second paragraph are now complete. In version 6, after deleting the text, you will need to tap the spacebar to add an extra space to follow the period that ends the preceding sentence, if the Smart Cut and Paste option is on. If you are using version 2, or if you have turned off the Smart Cut and Paste feature in version 6, the trailing spaces for the new sentence have already been entered, so the spaces that follow the period at the end of the selected text should be deleted. Our next target is in the first line of the next paragraph. It consists of reversing the order of the words increase and substantially. If this text is not visible on the screen, it will be necessary to scroll the document up a few lines. When the first line of the paragraph is visible, use the mouse to move the I-beam into either one of the two words to be reversed. It does not matter which word is selected. In this case, we will select the second word, the word substantially. Now double-click to select the entire word. With the word substantially selected, press Ctrl X to cause the selected text to be cut from the document and placed into an area of the computer's memory called the clipboard. If you can't remember that Ctrl X is used to cut selected text, a list of shortcut keys can be viewed on the screen by clicking the Edit option on the menu bar. Either way, a pull-down menu appears, and the keyboard ways to cut, Ctrl X, copy, Ctrl C, and paste, Ctrl V, are shown on the right side of the pull-down panel. To continue with our problem of reversing the order of two words, use the Ctrl left arrow key to hop the insertion point to the beginning of the next word to the left. Use Ctrl V to paste the text from the clipboard into the document at the current location of the insertion point. The contents of the clipboard will remain unchanged until something else is cut or copied. Another quick method is available to reverse the order of two words. It is a technique that relies solely on the mouse, but does not require the use of the button bar. With this example, we introduced the process of dragging and dropping, which is a frequently used technique in most Windows applications. It was specifically designed to take advantage of the way in which the mouse works. As the name implies, we will drag our selected word to its new location and then drop it into its new position. This time, with the mouse pointer still on the selected word, push down on the left mouse button and hold it down. Notice how the shape of the pointer changes to look like a dashed vertical line. Continue to hold down the left mouse button and drag the mouse to the left. As you drag to the left, notice that the dashed I-beam also moves to the left. As you approach the beginning of the word to the left, the dashed I-beam will automatically hop over to the front of this next word, which happens to be the word increase in our case. When the dashed I-beam moves to the beginning of the word increase, let go of the mouse button and the selected word reappears at this new location. The process of dragging and dropping is a little different in version 2. As in version 6, as you drag to the left, the dashed I-beam also moves to the left. However, in version 2, the dashed I-beam does not automatically move to the beginning of the next word to the left. Instead, you must continue this dragging motion until the dashed I-beam is exactly in the position where you want the word to be relocated. When the dashed I-beam is in the desired position, let go of the left mouse button, and the selected word will reappear at its new location. The manner in which version 6 automatically moves the dashed I-beam to the beginning of the next word makes it easier to quickly and accurately perform the dragging and dropping. The feature can be deactivated by clearing the box next to the drag and drop text editing option found under Tools, Options, Edit. Turning back to our copy, we see that the next revisions are on the second page. Since these revisions begin in the second paragraph below the insertion point's current location, Control down arrow would be the quickest way to get there. The changes to be made on the second paragraph on this page are somewhat involved. Most of the paragraph is to be deleted, some relocated to the end of the paragraph. The entire paragraph is to be combined with the previous one to make a single paragraph. Since the material to be deleted is not a complete sentence, selection of text may be accomplished by holding down the Shift key and tapping the down arrow 3 times. This causes the first 3 lines of the paragraph to be selected. Notice, though, from the copy, that the last 5 words in the third sentence should not be deleted and therefore should not be selected. To deselect them, continue to hold down the Shift key and additionally hold down the Control key. Now tap the left arrow key 5 times. The insertion point hops back to the left 1 word at a time, deselecting each word as it goes. Delete the selected text by tapping either the backspace or the delete key. Now we restore the deleted text using the undo command, Ctrl-Z, and then deselect the text by pressing the left arrow key. The insertion point is again at the beginning of the paragraph. With the mouse, move the I-beam to the location where the text to be deleted ends, which is after the word requires. Hold down the Shift key and click the left mouse button. Immediately, all of the text between the initial position of the insertion point at the beginning of the paragraph and the current location of the I-beam is selected. Complete the deletion of the selected text by tapping either the backspace or the delete key. Now that the first part of the paragraph has been discarded, what remains of it needs to be moved to the end of the paragraph. As usual, our first step is to select the text to be moved. As we have seen, text can be selected using either the keyboard or the mouse. When we completed the previous step of deleting the selected text, the insertion point was left at the beginning of the remainder of the paragraph. To select the next material with the keyboard, hold down the Shift key and tap the End key. This quickly selects the entire line. Hold down both the Shift and Control keys and tap the left arrow key 6 times to position the insertion at the end of the word effort, deselecting the 6 words on the right end of the line as you go. With the mouse, hold down the Shift key and move the I-beam to the end of the word effort and click the left mouse button. But this time do not remove the text by using the backspace or delete keys. This text is going to be moved, not permanently discarded. In order to keep it available for future retrieval, it needs to be cut. Cutting and removing the text from the document stores it in the clipboard. Copying, which is Ctrl-C, makes a copy of the selected text and places it in the clipboard. The selected text is not deleted from the document. If you are using version 6, a very effective shortcut with the mouse is to use the right mouse button. After selecting the text to be cut, and with the pointer anywhere in the selected text, press the right mouse button. This produces a small pull-down menu on the screen whose first entry is Cut. Move the pointer to the Cut box and click on it. The selected text is cut from the screen and stored in the clipboard. If you are using version 2 and want to use the mouse to cut the selected text, move the pointer up to the button bar and click on the Cut button, which is the button with the scissors on it. The space previously occupied by the deleted and cut text has been closed up, and the insertion point rests at the beginning of the next 7 words, which need to be deleted. So use the mouse to put the I-beam in this sentence fragment. Do a Control click to select this sentence fragment. Once the text has been selected, discard it by pressing either the backspace or delete key. Be sure not to cut the selected text. If you do, the contents of the clipboard will be changed, and the previously cut text will be lost. You do not want to change the contents of the clipboard at this time because the previously cut text has not yet been copied to its new location. This is the reason for getting into the habit of using the backspace or delete key to permanently discard text, or to use the drag and drop technique for moving text. Neither of these methods changes the contents of the clipboard. Use the cut or copy procedures only when you want to keep text for pasting later in another location. Having deleted the last portion of the first sentence in the second paragraph, we need to jump over the remaining short sentence to get to the place where the next revision is to take place. The quickest way to accomplish this is with the mouse. Use the mouse to move the I-beam to the word your and double-click on it to select the entire word. We selected this word because we wanted to discard it. Now key in the new beginning of the sentence the words the ultimate. If this does not happen, check the Typing Replaces Selection option. In version 6, this option is found under Tools, Options, Edit. There should be an X in the box to the left of the Typing Replaces Selection option shown on this screen. In version 2, this option is found under Tools, Options, General. There should be an X in the box to the left of the Typing Replaces Selection option shown on this screen. Now that we want to make changes that are close together, we will make them by using the keyboard. Use Control right arrow to hop over the word Goal and then tap Control Delete twice to delete the word Should Be. Next, key in the word Is and a space. Tap the down arrow key once, tap the End key, and the insertion point stops at the end of the paragraph. Tap the backspace key 3 times to delete the 2 trailing spaces and the period. Enter a comma and a space. Then key in the new text, which generally means using. At last we are ready to paste the contents of the clipboard into our document. From the keyboard we can do this by pressing Ctrl V. With the mouse, verify that the insertion point is at the end of the text just added. Then click the right mouse button. Again, a small pull-down menu appears. Use the mouse to point to and click the Paste option on this menu. Text from the clipboard is then copied into the document at the insertion point's location. In version 2, the right mouse button cannot be used to pull down the small editing menu. Instead, use the pointer to paste the button up here on the button bar and click on it. If the incorrect text is pasted into your document, it indicates that a second cut or copy was made after the first one. It is important to remember that only one thing can be held in the clipboard at a time. Each time text is cut or copied, the previous content of the clipboard is discarded and is replaced by the newly cut or copied material. Using the backspace or delete keys allows you to delete selected text without replacing the contents of the clipboard. Use of drag and drop procedures also avoids changing the contents of the clipboard. When using version 2, check to make sure that there is the correct number of spaces between the end of the text keyed in and the text pasted in from the clipboard. If there are too many, it indicates that you added a space when entering the text, and there was also one included in the material that was cut, thus resulting in 2 spaces where there should have only been 1. If there are no spaces, it indicates that no space was typed in and no space was included in the cut material. Notice that in the pasted text, the word or needs to be changed to the word and. Use the mouse to move the pointer to the word or. Double-click on the word. Key in the replacement word. Referring back to our copy, we can see that what remains is the task of joining the revised paragraph with the preceding paragraph. First, let's jump the insertion point to the beginning of the paragraph by using Control up arrow. What we need to delete is the paragraph marker at the end of the preceding paragraph. This can be done by pressing the backspace key. A word of caution about combined paragraphs. In Word for Windows, the format of a paragraph is governed by the information stored in the paragraph marker at the end of the paragraph. When a paragraph marker is deleted, as we just did, to join the 2 paragraphs together, a problem could result unless the 2 joined paragraphs have the same formats. Since this was the case in our example, there was no problem. If you join 2 paragraphs and the resulting combined paragraph does not look right, it is probably due to differences in the formats of the 2 paragraphs. You can undo this change by using the Undo button on the button bar or Ctrl Z from the keyboard. To combine information, it may be necessary to cut and paste text between paragraphs without deleting a paragraph marker. Refer to Chapter 7 in the Word for Windows manual for a more detailed discussion of paragraph formats. Referring back to our copy, we see on page 3 that we need to make another change in our document. Notice that this change is several paragraphs below our current position near the bottom of the document. We could move down through our document using the mouse and the scroll bar on the right side of the screen, or by tapping the page down key a couple of times until the part of the document where the last change is located appears on the screen. In a document this short, page down would be sufficient. However, this would be a good place to illustrate a technique that is often a more efficient way to move the insertion point precisely to a target that is much further away from the insertion point's current location, say several pages away. This technique is especially useful on longer documents that may just need a few changes. We will let the computer help us find a specific target. In this case, our target is the phrase we want to delete, which is "there is more text." However, it is generally more efficient to enter a short search phase. To initiate the search, enter Control F if you are using version 6, and the Find dialog box will appear on the screen. It can be opened by clicking on the Edit option on the menu bar and then clicking on the Find option in the pull-down menu. The first thing requested in the Find dialog box is what to search for. In this case, let's just enter the first two words plus the first letter of the third word in our target phrase. Thus we enter "there is M" in the Find What box in the Find dialog box. The Find dialog box has a somewhat different appearance in version 2. However, as in version 6, we do not need to be concerned with searching for whole words or matching case, nor are we searching for any formatting. Make sure the direction is down as indicated by the darkened bullet beside the word "down" in the direction box. Then click the final Next button on the right side of the dialog box to initiate the search. If it turns out that the target wasn't as specific as we thought it was, and we stop on a matching target before the one we wanted, click on Find Next to search for the next occurrence of the target. If Word for Windows finds the target phrase, it will jump directly to it and select it. If the correct target has been selected, use the mouse to move the pointer to the Find dialog box and click the Cancel button. Our search target, however, does not include all of the text we want to delete. Therefore, the selection should be expanded to include the rest of the text to be deleted. A quick way to do this is with Shift-Control-Right arrow. This combination of keys permits the insertion point to hop over words, selecting each word as it jumps. Tap the right arrow key twice to hop to the end of the word Text. Now all of the text to be deleted has been selected. We key in the replacement text. As before, the minute we begin typing, the selected text disappears. Our last task is to indent all the paragraphs in our document by 5 spaces. First, let's jump the insertion point to the top of the document. Use Control-Home to do this. This puts the insertion point in the heading. But the heading does not need to be indented, so tap the down arrow key to move the insertion point into the first regular paragraph. Recall that to select a single paragraph, all that is needed is that the insertion point be placed anywhere in the paragraph. To change the format of the selected paragraph, the Paragraph Formatting dialog box needs to be opened. This can be done by using the mouse and clicking on the Format option in the menu bar, and then clicking on the Paragraph option. Another quick way to open the Paragraph Format dialog box that is available only in version 6 is by using the right mouse button. With the insertion point in the selected paragraph, click the right mouse button and a small pull-down menu is displayed. Click the Paragraph option on this menu and the Paragraph Format dialog box is opened for the selected paragraph. The appearance of the Paragraph Format dialog box is different for versions 2 and 6. Let's examine the one for 6 first. Notice that there are already 2 entries under the spacing box in the dialog box. The first one follows the word after and contains the entry 12 pt. The pt stands for points, and each point is equal to 1/72nd of an inch. Thus, 12 points is 12/72 or 1/6 of an inch. It indicates that this setting is the equivalent of 1 line at the customary line spacing of 6 lines per inch. It is this entry that causes 1 line to automatically be added to the end of the paragraph. You may have noticed that the paragraphs in our sample document have only a single paragraph marker after them rather than 2. Many users press the Enter twice after each paragraph, and this has the effect of inserting a second, empty paragraph between text paragraphs. This extra paragraph simply serves the purpose of inserting a blank line between regular text paragraphs. We recommend adding a blank line in the manner shown here, in the spacing after entry of the Paragraph Format dialog box, rather than adding an empty extra paragraph. Recall that our objective with this paragraph is to change the first line indentation. There is an indentation box, but no mention of the first line. The first line indentation is controlled under the special entry in the indentation box. Use the mouse to put the pointer on the down arrow to the right of the text box containing the entry None and click on it. One of the choices listed in the resulting pull-down menu will be First Line. Point to and click this option. Next, it is necessary to specify how much the first line is to be indented. Although the notation on our copy calls for indenting the first line by 5 spaces, it's better to indent by inches. We will accept Word for Windows default entry of 0.5 inches. Line spacing controls the spacing between the lines within a paragraph. Remember, it is never a good idea to press the Enter key at the end of each line in a regular paragraph. Spacing after controls the amount of space between separate paragraphs. Separating paragraphs by lines that are not always multiples of whole lines is readily accomplished with this approach. Leave line spacing set to 2 in order to keep double spacing within the paragraph, and leave spacing after set to 1 to keep a blank line between this paragraph and the next one. Now let's turn our attention to the indentation box. There are 3 choices in this box: one for left indentation, one for right indentation, and one for first line indentation. With the mouse, move the pointer onto the upwardly pointing triangle on the right side of the box to the right of the first line entry. Click the left mouse button several times until the box to the left reads 0.5 inches. Notice that each click of the mouse button increases the number by 1/10 of an inch. After changing the first line setting to 0.5 inches, use the mouse to click the OK button. The selected paragraph is now adjusted so that it has a 1/2 inch indentation on the first line. Next, we wish to indent the first line of all the remaining paragraphs in the text except the paragraph heading and the paragraph in the middle of the second page which begins in Microsoft Word for Windows. Since the paragraph heading is right below our current location in the document, it will be easy to skip past it. But what can we do about the paragraph in the middle of the second page? Because it is just the one paragraph, what we will do is indent all the paragraphs and then unindent this individual paragraph. Use the mouse to move the insertion point down to the beginning of the first paragraph under the heading. The insertion point need not be at the beginning of the paragraph, but must be positioned somewhere in it. With the keyboard, hold down the Control key and tap the down arrow key twice. This will jump the insertion point down 2 paragraphs. We now wish to select all the paragraphs from the one we are in to the one at the end of the document. Hold down both the Shift and Control keys and tap the End key. Control End jumps the insertion point to the bottom of the document, and when the Shift key is added, all the text from the current position of the insertion point to the bottom of the document is selected. Use the mouse to click the Format and then Paragraph options. Click the Special option, and finally click the First Line option. The value of 0.5 inches appears automatically. Click the OK button. All of the paragraphs that were included in the selected text are now indented 1/2 inch on their first lines. Notice that all the text remains selected. Let's repeat the process of changing the first line indentation on several paragraphs at once using version 2's Paragraph Format dialog box. First, open the Paragraph Format dialog box by clicking Format Paragraph. In the indentation box, move to the first line option and change it to 0.5 inches either by typing in the value or clicking several times on the upwardly pointing triangle. Leave the other settings unchanged. Move the mouse pointer to the OK button and click on it. All of the paragraphs in the selected text are changed to the desired 1/2 inch indenting of the first line. Since the paragraph we want to remove the first line indentation from is not too far from our present location, tap the Page Up key a couple of times until the desired paragraph appears on the screen. In the version 2 Paragraph Format dialog box, move to the first line option in the indentation box and change it from 0.5 inches to 0 inches. Leave the other paragraph formatting settings unchanged. Move the mouse pointer to the OK button and click on it. Notice how the paragraph's indenting of the first line is now removed for the selected paragraph only. The other paragraphs retain their 1/2 inch indentations on the first line. Save your changes. Spell check the document to be sure no spelling errors were accidentally introduced when making these revisions. This completes our changes. Now let's swiftly make all of these changes to illustrate how rapidly they can be made once a person has learned to make efficient use of the variety of commands that are available to you in Word for Windows. It will be possible to make all these changes in less than 15 minutes. Here is what our completely revised document looks like.